Lastly, we'll hear from Rick Willis, our head football coach.
All right, thanks for coming. We're excited to get things going. We had about 125 guys report a week ago, and we have, about 27 seniors, I think, on our team, which is a pretty high number for us, and lots of different ways, I guess, to count this, but the way we're sort of looking at it, we have 8 starters back on each side of the ball, and both are specialists. So we're excited about, I guess, both the talent and the experience that we return, and certainly have high expectations. We've practiced 7 times now and really are preparing for a situational scrimmage up at Platteville on Saturday. So just run through kind of our guys on offense and defense and who they are quickly, and then see what kind of questions you have. But it's obviously nice to return a starting quarterback. Matt Saisha returns at quarterback after starting every game last year his sophomore year. Threw for 2,700 yards, 24 touchdowns, and also rushed for a little over 300 yards. Was second team all-conference. Our running back position, 3 of our 4 top rushers from a year ago return. Connor Schrader for his senior year, he averaged right at 6 yards a carry last year in the 8 games that he was able to play in. Dylan Binion, as a freshman, was one of the great surprises in camp a year ago, and has really continued to progress and improve. Averaged 7 yards a carry a year ago, and we look for big things from him this season. And then Parker Hamill gives us great depth at the running back position coming back for his senior year. Our wide receivers, our 2 top receivers from a year ago, Riley Brockway, who caught 59 passes a year ago, and Griffin Brennick, who caught 55, both return and have done a nice job here in the first week. And then Ben Strathman is a senior who's played a lot and is a very good receiver for us as well. Nick Wall is a junior who's had probably the best camp. He's probably the best right now that he's ever been. We look for a big step from him this year. And then Dennison Harrington, as a sophomore, gives us a different dimension from a speed standpoint, and we hope to utilize that. Our tight end position is probably on our offense, without question, the most wide open position. With the graduation of Seth Hessness and a few other things at that position, we really have nobody with experience. We've moved a few people to that spot and are working hard to try to determine the best way to utilize those guys. Matt Mulford is a very athletic, big guy who played actually at tackle for us a year ago. Was a backup tackle, has been working there. Lee Boniface, who was in our, I guess, somewhere last year in our quarterback depth, 2nd, 3rd, 4th quarterback a year ago as a freshman, has moved there and is a good athlete and is learning the position. And then Jacob Leisinger was there a year ago and is a really smart player. Clayton Weltha moved from D-line to that position. So we've got those 4 guys, and we're trying to figure out which one is going to be the most complete, and then how to role play appropriately with others to get what we need done at the tight end spot. At the O-line position, we have really 6 guys that we're trying to figure out the best combination. 4 of the 6 have started games a year ago. Hud Johnston was injured in the camp a year ago, or he would have started games a year ago. So Derek Shipper, Nick Vetter, Hud Johnston, Tyler Shager, Reese Garver, and Tom Schiffer are the 6 guys that will take most of the snaps probably for us in the offensive line as long as we remain healthy. So that's kind of a quick rundown of our offense. Our defense, one unique thing, we have 3 fifth-year guys back on our defense, 3 guys that through injury were able to get an extra year, 1 in each position group. In the D-line position, Blake Beckman was injured early in his career and decided to come back. Rob Rotler, who was a starting linebacker for us, had 83 tackles in 2015, was injured and lost for the season in the first game over at Monmouth a year ago, is back. And then Chris McNutt, who also was injured and lost for the season in that Monmouth game, is back in our secondary. So that's kind of a unique bonus for us. But we have really 9 seniors in our defensive line, which I don't think I can ever remember having that be the case. But just list those guys off: Hunter Baldus, Mitch Rowe, I mentioned Blake Beckman, Mitch Schertz, Troy Hike, Dylan Rodemaker. Sam Ambrose started a bunch of games for us at Will linebacker last year, and he's now working at the defensive end position. Then Ben Weber and Hunter Sabers. So we have great experience, a bunch of guys that have been in our program for a long time and worked hard. And there's tremendous competition at that spot right now in terms of how we're gonna utilize all those guys. And so there's gonna be a mix of guys, but we feel good about the depth there. Our linebackers, Tony Anstetter returns as our Sam backer, had 70 tackles a year ago, was first team all-conference. I mentioned Rob Rotler. Connor Frericks played a lot last year, actually had 66 tackles for us a year ago, mostly as a safety. And so he's going to be playing as an outside backer this year. And then Marcus Johnson, Anthony Davis, and Jason Fisher provide us great depth at our linebacker spot. Our DBs, Peyton Imhoff as a corner, had 5 interceptions a year ago, and then Chris McNutt. Those 2 guys, that's one of our corners and one of our safeties. The other 2 spots, there's tremendous competition for right now. The corner spot, Noah Dahlstrom, who played a lot a year ago, Cohen Brown, who's been steadily improving, Bryce Evans, who we had moved a year ago from offense, and then a newcomer that I'll talk a little bit more about, JoJo McNair, are the guys to battle really for that corner job. And then the other safety spot will end up being manned by Cedric Dobbins, Jacob Cloft, Reed Mathis, or Dane Steidler. There's 4 guys battling for that. So we have a lot of work to do to sort the depth out at those spots and see how that's going to shake out. Our kicker, Brayton Brandt, returns. He made over 90% of his extra points a year ago and 7 field goals. And our punter, Jake Pasaric, averaged over 42 yards a punt a year ago and was all conference and all district. So we're excited about those guys. Just a few newcomers, I think, that have a chance to contribute this year. I mentioned JoJo McNair at corner out of Joliet, Illinois. He's had a tremendous camp. He's a very talented player, and I think will make an important contribution as a freshman. Ethan Lapes, a highly decorated high school player from the area that certainly is an explosive, talented football player that I think has a chance to make some contributions. And we've been impressed by Bennett Getch, a running back who's got a great feel in there. We do play 6 home games this year, which is unique. I don't think that's ever happened. I know it's never happened in the 20 years that I've been here. So that's a great opportunity. We start on September 9th, and again, a week later than most people with Monmouth. Our other non-conference game this year is against Washington University out of St. Louis, which is a great opponent, just a 1-year deal. 3 of the first 4 teams we play were in the playoffs a year ago, so we have a tough schedule early on here in the season for sure. Unique things a little bit, our team took a trip to Italy in late May, early June. We had 40-some players and some families, 72 total people over there. It was a great experience. We got a chance to play a game in Italy, and result of kind of that and some previous connections, we have a unique situation with the head coach from the team we played in Italy joining us this year, working with our tight ends, and will really be here for the entire season, which is going to be kind of a neat experience both for our team and for him. So anyway, I guess that's about it. What kind of questions?
Coach, last year in your losses, your offense seemed to have done enough How do you, I guess, what's the key to having a better defensive performance this year? I guess the big one I see was corners sometimes looked a little lost at times. Then you switched them, they looked a little better. But how can you get better performance, especially in passing defense?
Yeah, well, that's certainly an area that we need to be better at. Pass defense is not just the secondary. Pass defense relates to everybody. I mean, part of it starts with not allowing quarterbacks to be comfortable, and that goes with, that starts with pass rush and mixing up what we're doing so that quarterbacks can't be comfortable. But certainly we need to eliminate big plays. That's key to being successful defensively. It always has been, and I think probably always will be. And so that's going to be one of our focus. We've made some changes, obviously personnel-wise, to try to become more athletic as we move Sam Ambrose, towards the line of scrimmage into kind of our defensive line group, as we move Connor Frericks into our linebacker group from our secondary. And so I think some of those things hopefully will help us in that regard. We've certainly gone out and researched some things and made some adjustments from a schematic standpoint. So it's a whole combination of things. A lot of it is just confidence, is going out there and playing and being confident in what you're doing. So, we feel good about being improved in that area, and certainly if we're going to accomplish the goals that this team has, we're going to need to be.
Coach, you obviously made that deep playoff run a few years ago. Haven't had that experience the last couple of years. I know you have players that were either, maybe reserves on that team when the team made the run to Whitewater or were being recruited at that moment. How hungry is this group to have that opportunity to try to reach the postseason now this year after a couple of years where you haven't had postseason games?
Yeah, I think it's a huge goal, for our group, and I think there is a hunger for that. You mentioned really the seniors on this group, which 27 guys were part of our team in 2014. So they were part of that, and they know what that felt like, but they weren't playing as large a role, obviously, at that point in time. And so I know that in their mind they want to have a chance to do that themselves. We have great respect and admiration for those guys from the 2014 team. I think sometimes the guys that are seniors now, frankly, are almost tired of hearing about the 2014 team. They want people to be talking about the 2017 team. That's what they're going to try to do.
What do you like out of what Matt's been able to provide to the quarterback position as somebody that's been in place there for so long, and what do you see him, as the keys for him to kind of continue to build on what he's been able to provide this program?
Yeah, I mean, what do you like about Matt Sacia? Well, really everything. I like everything about Matt Sacia. I like the way he carries himself as a person. I like his leadership. I like his athleticism. I like his decision-making, his intelligence. And he has a strong arm and is an accurate passer. So there's nothing not to like about Matt Sacia. We're very fortunate to have a quarterback like him. And, I'm excited to see him take a step from where he was a year ago. I think he made a strong impression on a lot of people a year ago in his first year starting as a sophomore. And if he can improve from there, then he's going to be pretty special.
Denison Harrington is a guy that when he touched the ball, everyone just kind of buzzed, because he's just so fast. Have you looked to find a way to maybe get him to stretch the field the way that, talk about the 2014 team again, Jacobsmeyer was, to take the top off the defense because of Matt Sacia being such a good passer, just to give him, more room to work with a guy that can go deep like that? Or is he going to be more of that zero route or give him, hand him the ball type of guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think all those things are possibilities. I mean, we want to try to expand Denny's role. He's going to be able to handle that more now than he was able to as a freshman last year. So getting him out as a outside receiver, which we really haven't done, is something that we're certainly looking at. But there's lots of different ways to try to get the ball in his hands, and we want to try to explore all of those ways to try to utilize his abilities.
Your thoughts on the conference this season, and what it's going to take for this team to be able to win the league?
Well, it's always hard to win the league. I mean, that's always our goal, and it's always a great challenge to do that. And I don't think this year will be any different. There's a lot of good teams in our league, and as you can see from the poll that the coaches did at the start of the year. Not that that's usually very accurate, but with multiple teams, I guess 3 teams, right? 3 or 4 teams receiving first place votes. 4 teams receiving first place votes, and it's pretty bunched up there. I think, and even teams that aren't receiving first place votes, I think, can be looked at as improved teams. And so every week's going to be a great challenge, and I think there's going to be a lot of competition for the championship as the year goes on, and probably something that's going to be a tight race, into November, and it's going to have a lot to do with, which team can stay healthy and which team can kind of find a way to make big plays in critical situations to win close ball games.
So a year ago, 2 of your top sack producers in Dalton Civarelli and Joe Stearns, both seniors, both graduated. Are we going to see differences in play calls, such as more stunts, more blitzes, or are you guys going to rely more on internal development from players such as Dylan Rademacher and Hunter Baldus?
Well, I think you're going to see us continue to be aggressive and attacking and mix up the way we play. We're going to move around. We're going to put pressure on people through calling pressures from time to time. But the key to being a great defense is to be able to get pressure on the quarterback without always having to blitz to do it. And so, I think the guys I mentioned there's a whole bunch of guys that are very capable of making plays. And we're going, our intent is to be able to play with different combinations and rotate guys through there. We should have fresh guys on the field all the time that are able to go and do things. So, that group needs to take a step forward for us this year. But I think we have the people there that are able to do that if we can stay healthy. Dylan Rademacher's a guy that's, got some explosiveness to him, that's had a hard time, staying healthy. And so that's certainly a key for us as we move forward.
A night game returns to your schedule with your opener. How does your preparation that day change or stay the same from a day game?
Well, it's always nice to play at night. I think our guys enjoy that. It creates a little bit different feel, a little bit different atmosphere. I think our fans like it. Our crowd's usually pretty good, for the night games. But, the routine on game day is pretty much the same, as it is every day. You have your pregame meal a certain number of hours before the game, and then from that point on, everything's the same. It's a little harder because, you're not as used to sitting around all day waiting for the game as maybe guys were when they were in high school. But I think part of it is they remember, playing night games all the time in high school, and it's kind of something that they're used to. And it's a little harder on the coaches, actually, sitting around all day.
So for the second straight year, you guys open the season with your bye week. How does that kind of impact the athletes playing 10 straight games, not having that week, not necessarily a week off, but not having a game 2 to 3 weeks into the season, 10 straight weeks of practice game? How does it kind of impact the wear and tear or just the mentality of the players?
Yeah, I think the deal with the schedule is probably the most impactful early on, in my view. I think if you asked, football coaches, it's kind of a mixed bag between, whether you play well coming off a bye week or whether it's hard to get back going after a bye week. And if you're playing well, you don't really want a bye week, and if you're not playing well, maybe you take one. Or if you have a bunch of injuries, sometimes you can get some guys back. And that's they can come at an opportune time. I think the negative to it is early on, you end up starting practice a little bit later, and you're basically you're playing your first game when your opponent in that first game is playing their second. I think that's the part that I guess I'm the most uncomfortable with, and. When we're in that situation to try to, set schedules and so forth, it's always there's always competing priorities. There's different things you're trying to accomplish, and you try to find the best balance to satisfy those competing priorities. So, what I've been saying and what I believe is, we're going to play the hand that we're dealt. This is the way the schedule is. Okay, let's go. So I really don't think it's a big deal. Back, a long time ago, before you guys probably would recall, when we had every game as a conference game, there weren't any bye weeks, and so I'm not really too concerned about that. We're just gonna play the schedule the way it's set, and hopefully we'll be able to stay more injury free, than we did a year ago. We probably had as many challenges with injuries a year ago as we have in a long time around here, and that plays a big part, for every team in the sport of football.
Every year there's rule changes, either based on what you can do in practice or what contact you can have with the guys, or on the field rule changes. What are some of those that we should be aware of?
Well, in football, they have every other year is a major rule change year, and this year's the non-change year. There's an addition to like the horse collar tackle, they've expanded like the jersey area where people's names would be as potential penalties. So you may see a few more penalties called on things like that. One that you'll probably get a chuckle out of that people are referring to, I think, as the Jim Harbaugh rule or whatever, is that coaches, can't go on the field to yell at the officials. So, well, there'll certainly be some adjustments, with that. So, there's a little tighter restriction, I guess you'd say, on some of those things. One of the biggest changes in football from last year to this year is kind of the whole preseason structure. The fact that, there's no more two-a-days, which is very different for schools our size than for the larger schools. The larger schools, where, money really isn't an object, I guess you'd say, they just back up their count and bring the players in whatever day they need to get their allotted number of practices in. At our level, bringing players in way earlier is an expense issue that causes a lot of schools great concern. So they adjusted some things to help us try to get a couple extra practices that we were going to lose, but still, at the Division III level, schools are going to go into their first ball game with probably 3 or 4 practices less than what they have had in the past. So every day now, basically you're allowed to have one practice, you're allowed to have a 1-hour walkthrough, and obviously some meeting time. So it used to be that you'd practice for 5 days, called an acclimatization period, and then you'd go into 2-a-days, then a 1-a-day, then a 2-a-day, and then and so forth. So there are no more 2-a-days. And so, for me and for us as creatures of habit here that have been doing things a certain way for a long time, we basically had to start from scratch with our whole preseason schedule. The preseason schedule that we've been using, that John was part of for years and years, we had to rewrite it. So I didn't like that part of it, but we're figuring it out, and I think it's it's working out well, and hopefully it's helping the players stay more injury free and stay a little more fresh.
Thank you for your insights. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.